Morning, Les.
Good morning,
You
Dr.
were going to
Hanscom.
make me say hello this morning, weren't you?
This is your week, man. You own it.
We could have spent 10 minutes just looking at each other.
Yes, we would be wondering.
Right. Anyway, we have a topic that, again, these are big topics about the family. And this is one where, when you're in chronic pain, we've mentioned chronic pain has a terrible impact on your quality of life, but also on the families. And it drives me hard about the impact on the families because, there's two, four, six, eight people involved when you're in pain, and it comes into the house like a dark fog. And so you're not in a great mood. And what happens, it comes out as quick orders, commands, please do this, this, and this, not even a please. And, it's just hard to be nice when you're in pain. I get it. No question about it. But we forget. So one of the things that happens, we give lots of advice and we tend to be pretty critical anyway. It's just magnified in pain. And humans by nature are critical, judgmental, because that's how we survive. And so you have to sort of train your brain to be nice a lot of the time because life is stressful. But especially in chronic pain, it's just devastating. So a lot of times you're giving NS for advice, criticism, do this, this, and this, and it's a problem. So my question today is, how do you feel personally if you receive unasked for advice? How do you react to that? Do you really like that? Have you really changed, made deep changes because of this? So unsolicited advice is something that's common in chronic pain, but
Mhm.
we're trying to just have you understand what it's like when it comes to you. Because that was a big insight for me personally. Go, wait a
Yeah,
second, people give me all this advice. They don't know who I am. Dr.
right.
Arya?
I absolutely have to agree with you. It's never nice, I think we all can agree to this, and David, and then the audience, is that when someone gives us feedbacks, solicited, unsolicited sometimes, but more so the unsolicited part where, I didn't ask you, like, you're not my daddy or mommy. And when we get feedback, that's exactly it. It takes us back to childhood, that we've done something wrong. If your boss or your partner or even your neighbor or someone, a family member gives you feedback, it tends to activate us into a state of defensiveness that we don't quite realize. And most people, when they get the feedback, it's, I've done something wrong, as
Right.
opposed to self growth, like, is there some truth to this? And sometimes there isn't, and sometimes there is. But very often when we get feedback, it is human to get defensive. Because if you go back to the cave days, if you were criticized, so to speak, this is evolutionary brain stuff, you were ostracized. And so therefore, that's one of the reasons why we're afraid of actually, um, you know, being being controlled, being told that something was wrong with us, because if we weren't a right fit for the group in the cave days, we were ostracized. And if you were by yourself, you're going to be eaten. So this is an evolutionary brain thing. So when someone gives feedback, it is natural. So it's not a psychological thing, it's a physiological thing. Then we notice the psychological effects of it. So it's sort of a knee-jerk reaction that's unconscious from the brainstem and limbic system. So it makes sense that if we get defensive real easily. The part that I think David and I are talking about here today is what can we do to refine that, to reduce the angst or the intensity when someone gives you unsolicited advice.
Well, and of course, you brought up a really good point is that, okay, you give me advice, I get reactive. Okay, at that moment, I mean, honestly, have you ever had unsolicited advice and just say, oh, thank you? Is that your first response? So, I mean, we're talking about the solution thing, but I mean, the first thing you do, and you're absolutely right, when you are in getting that advice, you react. And then when you
Yeah,
react, your brain goes offline. You're not thinking clearly anymore.
yeah.
So all of a sudden
David,
you're reacting. And so how are you going to even hear the advice?
right.
Maybe it's perfect advice. I'm not saying it's not wrong, but we also tend to want people to become the same as us, and everybody's different. So it's an odd need. I mean, why do we give so much criticism to everybody all the time? Why does everybody do this to everybody else? It's crazy.
Yeah, David, sorry, when you were saying that, one of the worst things one can do, and I know some of us have tried this at some point in our lifetime, is, I'm sorry you feel that way. That is the most off-putting thing. And
Yep.
so while you deflect, it actually aggravates the conflict a little bit more. I'm sorry you feel that way. A better way to do this, I'm sure, David, you can give us input on this, is, thanks for your opinion, thanks for your feedback. You're basically saying is, I'm not sure whether to accept it or not, but let me take a look at it. and it's not done in a sarcastic manner.
Right.
And because in the heat of the moment, we get defensive. And when we get defensive, our thinking brain, the part that we try to rationalize, like what's the best way to navigate, is offline, as you would say, right? So to come back online, we basically get some distance from our thoughts and a simple word like, okay, thanks for your feedback on that. And very often the person who gave you feedback wants to banter a little bit more. You can say, let me think about that and walk away and say, because you don't have to dialogue with that and make it worse.
So I agree. So I'm the person in pain. That happens. I do that tool. That's great. Remember, your family members probably don't have that tool.
Right.
You made a couple of comments before the Facebook Live this morning about how to actually process, I think, fairly constructively.
Yeah. So one of the things David and I were talking about is clinically, from a clinical perspective. So when you're seeing a therapist, a psychologist, some of the tools we teach is this. When someone gives you feedback, and this is a skill again, we want to notice that knee-jerk reaction. So somatically, you want to notice where that reaction shows up. Is it fear? Is it anger? Where is it? Is it sadness? Where? And so we train people to notice, to leave the conversation and come home and notice the body. And then the second thing is to drop into your breath to down-regulate the sympathetic system that's all fired up, right? Because we're all ready to do battle. So you feel your body, drop into your breath, and then you say this. You're all ready? You do two things. You ask yourself, after you've down-regulated your nervous system, this question: is there any truth to what they're saying? The feedback I'm getting, oh, you're very rude to me lately. You have not been helping me out. Is there any truth to it? Maybe there is and maybe there is not. But that's the first question. Is there any truth to what they're saying? Can you own a piece of it? And maybe you don't own it. The second part is this: this is the key part, can you give yourself grace and the other person grace? When someone says, what do you mean give people grace? It means, can you forgive yourself if there's truth to what is being said? Yep, you've been a Krabby Patty, as SpongeBob would say, right? So if you're being a Krabby Patty, can you own that? Can you give yourself grace? It's a sense of forgiveness and, you know what, let me just let that go. Yes, I do admit I've been kind of rude. Can you give the other person grace? And maybe there's no truth to it. You know what? Forgive them because they're fired up about something else that you're not responsible for. So is there any truth? And can you give yourself grace and the other person?
Well, and my thoughts are along those lines, but a little bit different in that you said this before, just the first one, just no matter what, be nice, which translates when many times with my patients, I say, look, when you walk out the door of this office, your homework for this month is to not give one piece of advice or criticism for a month. Not one, just listen to your family. And people are so used to giving advice to their family, go, what are you talking about? But it's very powerful if they actually pull it off and just listen for a month. Just listen to your family. Listen, be with them, enjoy them. It changes the game dramatically because you forget advice. You just get so used to giving advice, you don't even hear yourself giving it anymore.
Yeah.
And
so David, what happens if someone's like, yeah, that's great, but I still need to kind of give them feedback? One of the things David and I were talking about this, you're like, if you have this angst, you're like, no, that's not going to happen. I'm not going to zip it. How about this? Instead of telling someone, ask. So when you feel like, for example, let's just say something is everything okay with you and can I help you out? Is there something that's going on inside of you? So basically you're saying is you're not personalizing it. You're basically saying is you're asking a question as opposed to you need to stop doing that. So that will create. So we want to diffuse anger and conflict. So you want to ask questions versus tell.
And the common theme this morning, if you listen carefully, is that you're creating space. In other words, okay, you've given advice, they're reacting. So again, when you ask a question, is there any truth to what they're saying? You're creating space, a little bit of space. So you're out of the reaction mode. And again, no action or reaction. And so again, just listening is hard, but you find yourself the impulse to talk, bring it back. It's all about space.
Exactly. And if not, you'll end up being a Krabby Patty. And if you don't know what that is, that's a SpongeBob term.
I don't know if that qualifies for lessism exactly or not. Krabby Patty. Okay, there must be a story behind that. All right. Well, Dr. Arya, have a great day. Have a great week. And we'll see you tomorrow.
Great.
All right.
You folks have a great day. Bye-bye.